words. I'm here to give you an award in the form of a diploma and a gold medal.
There you have it. Ethiopia's Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has just received the Nobel Peace Prize medal from the Norwegian Nobel Committee chairman, Mrs. Berit Reiss-Andersen, who gave a lengthy speech there presenting the laureate and also accounting for the committee's choice. She highlighted three major achievements that Abiy Ahmed has made, and that is peace with Eritrea, of course, promoting democratic reforms in Ethiopia, which include overseeing the release of political prisoners, and a positive response of Eritrea's leader Isaias Afwerki. And has been listening in with me to the speech, and as we continue to watch the ceremony and the performance by Ethiopian artist Betty G. James, what did you make of the speech by the Norwegian Committee, Nobel Committee chairman, Ms. Berit Reiss-Andersen? She highlighted his achievements, but also said that the work is at a standstill. Very interesting, some of the points she made in her speech.
Absolutely. She was clearly making a justification for why the Nobel Committee decided to make this choice, even quoting the will of Alfred Nobel, who was the Swedish chemist and businessman who actually made his money out of dynamite, but left this in his will for this prize, the Peace Prize out of Norway and the other Nobel Prizes out of Sweden. Clearly there's been quite a bit of criticism, some criticism in the last few days by the fact that he's not engaged with the media and won't be engaging with the media very much while in Oslo, questioning, some would say, the choice and whether this power, although he has certainly changed things, particularly with regard to Eritrea, but certainly also at home, whether it was a little early. But this is sometimes how the Nobel Committee work. They like to get in early to try and encourage things. But I think there was also a marker put down there saying, while we support all your achievements, we're not supporting you forever as a political force in Ethiopia, because the Nobel Committee, as everyone else knows the country's history, it knows that it has had strong men running it in the past for many years, and knows the history of the region. You just have to look not very far away from Ethiopia to another powerful country nearby, Uganda, and there you see President Museveni has been in power for more than 30 years.
Interesting indeed that she said, we're not supporting you forever as political leader of Ethiopia. Let's talk to William Davidson now as we continue to watch the performance of Betty G at the Nobel Award ceremony there in Oslo. He's an Ethiopia analyst at the International Crisis Group. He's live from Addis Ababa. Thank you very much, William Davidson, for being with us. Prime Minister Abiy is dealing with a lot of challenges right now internally in Ethiopia. Does he, in your view, deserve this Nobel Peace Prize, especially so early in his premiership?
Well, I mean, I don't think it's for me to assess that. I think we've heard pretty clear justifications for the decision to give the Nobel Peace Prize. That was the decision of the committee. What I would say about that is what comes through loud and clear is that we both had very impressive, bold leadership from Abiy. But that's mainly been in dismantling the old order in Ethiopia and overcoming some of the repression there, and then reaching out to President Isaias and restoring diplomatic relations there. What everyone recognises is that this is unfinished business, into the fact that this peace process with Eritrea has also stalled. So it really is a matter of unfinished business, but impressive.
In her speech, but as yet.
Your Majesties.
All right,
Royal
Mr. Davison, I'm going to interrupt you. Apologies for interrupting you. The Ethiopian Prime Minister is about to give his speech. We're going to listen to him now.
I am honored to be here with you today and grateful to the Norwegian Nobel Committee for recognizing and encouraging my accept this award on behalf of Ethiopians and Eritreans, especially those who made the ultimate sacrifice in the cause of peace. Likewise, I accept this award on behalf of my partner and comrade in peace, whose goodwill, trust, and commitment were vital in ending the two-decade deadlock between our countries. I also accept this award on behalf of Africans and citizens of the world, for whom the dream of peace has often turned into a nightmare of war. Today, I stand here in front of you talking about peace because of faith. I crawled my way to peace through the dusty trenches of war years ago. I was a young soldier when war broke out between Ethiopia and Eritrea. I witnessed firsthand the ugliness of war in frontline battles. There are those who have never seen war but glorify and romanticize it. They have not seen the fear. They have not seen the fatigue. They have not seen the destruction or heartbreak, nor have they felt the mournful impotence of war after the carnage. War is the epitome of hell for all involved. I know because I have been there and back. I have seen brothers slaughtering brothers on the battlefield. I have seen older men, women, and children trembling in terror under the deadly shower of bullets and artillery shells. You see, I was not only a combatant in war, I was also a witness to its cruelty and what it can do to people. War makes for bitter men, heartless and savage men. 20 years ago, I was a radio operator attached to an Ethiopian army unit in the border town of Baduma. The town was the flashpoint of the war between the two countries. I briefly left the foxhole in the hopes of getting. I was horrified to discover that my entire unit had been wiped out in an artillery attack. I still remember my young comrade in arms who died in Eritrea. Estimated 100,000 soldiers and civilians lost their lives. The aftermath of the war also left untold numbers of families broken. It also permanently shattered communities on both sides. Massive destruction of infrastructure further amplified the post-war economic burden. Socially, the war resulted in mass displacements, loss of livelihoods, deportation, and denationalization of citizens. Following the end of active armed conflict in June 2000, Ethiopia and Eritrea remained deadlocked in stalemate orders, unable to both sides of the border. Any small border cloud were threat for regional peace, with fears that a resumption of active combat. When I became Prime Minister, I believed peace between Ethiopia and Eritrea was within reach. I was convinced that the imaginary wall separating our two countries for much too long needed to be torn down. And in its place, a bridge of friendship, collaboration, and goodwill has to be built to last for ages. That's how I approached the task of building peace, a peace bridge with my partner, President Isaias Afwerki. We were both ready to allow peace to flourish and shine through. We resolved to turn our swords into plowshares and our spears into pruning hooks for the progress and prosperity of our people. We understood our nations are not enemies, and instead we were victims of the common enemy called poverty. We recognized that while our two nations were stuck on all the grievances, the world was shifting rapidly and leaving us behind. We agreed we must work cooperatively for the prosperity of our people and our region. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, today we are reaping our peace dividends. Families separated for over 2 decades are now united. Diplomatic relations are fully restored. Air and telecommunication services have been reestablished, and our focus has now shifted to developing joint infrastructure projects that will be a critical lever in our economic ambition. Our commitment to peace between our two countries is ironclad. One may wonder how it is that a conflict extending over 20 years can actions for peace. I believe that peace is an affair of the heart. Peace is a labor of love. Sustaining peace is hard work, yet we must cherish and nurture it. Nurturing peace is like planting and growing trees. Just like trees need water and good soil to grow, peace requires unwavering commitment, infinite patience, and goodwill to cultivate and harvest its dividends. Peace requires good faith to blossom into prosperity, security, and opportunity. In the same manner, trees absorb carbon dioxide to give us life and oxygen. Peace has a capacity to absorb the suspicion and doubt that may cloud our relationship. In return, it gives back hope for the future, confidence in ourselves, and share it with others if we choose to remove our masks of pride and arrogance. When our love for humanity outgrows our appreciation of human vanity, then the world will know peace. Ultimately, peace requires an enduring vision, and my vision of peace is rooted in the philosophy of Maddamar. Maddamar, an Amharic word, signifies synergy, convergence, and teamwork for a common destiny. Maddamar is a homegrown idea that is reflected in our political, social, and economic life. I like to think of Maddamar as a social compact for Ethiopians to build a just, egalitarian, democratic, and human society by pulling together our resources for our collective survival and prosperity. In practice, Maddamar is about using the best of our past to build a new society and a new civic culture that thrives on tolerance, understanding, and civility. At its core, Maddamar is a covenant of peace that seeks unity in our common humanity. It pursues peace by practicing the values of love, forgiveness, reconciliation, and inclusion. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I come from a small town called Bashasha, located in the Oromia region of western Ethiopia. It is in Bashasha that the seeds of Maddamar began to sprout. Growing up, my parents instilled in me and my siblings an abiding faith in humanity. Maddamar resonates with the proverb, I am my brother's keeper, I am my sister's keeper. In my little town, we had no running water, electricity, or paved roads, but we had a lot of love to light up our lives. We were each other's keepers. Faith, humility, integrity, patience, gratitude, tenacity, and cooperation, of course, are like a mighty stream. And we travel together on 3 country roads called love, forgiveness, and reconciliation. In the Madamar idea, there is no us and them. There is only us, for we are all bound by a shared destiny of love, forgiveness, and reconciliation. For the people in the land of origins, in the 13 months of sunshine, Madamar has always been second nature. Full coexistence, we Ethiopians remained independent for thousands of years because of extended family island. Ethiopia's Madamar-inspired foreign policy pursues peace through multilateral cooperation. Salamidar. Yo Olan Nagayambule. Thank you. Yo Olan Nagayambule. Nagambulan. In many African languages, which means for you to have a peaceful night, your neighbor shall have a peaceful night as well. The sense of this proverb guides the strengthening of relations in the region, a region of strategic significance. The global military superpowers are expecting foothold for the merchants of terror and brokers of despair and misery. We want the Horn of Africa to become a treasury of peace and progress. Indeed, we want the Horn of Africa to become the horn of plenty for the rest of the continent. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, as a global community, we must invest in peace. Over the past few months, Ethiopia has made history released all took place. Today, Ethiopia is all thing, an Ethiopia that is second to none in its guarantee of freedoms of expression. We have laid, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you very much. Thank you. We have laid the groundwork for genuine multi-party democracy, and we will soon hold a free peace and destruction. Peacemakers must teach peacebreakers to choose the way of life. To that end, we must help build a world culture of peace. But before there is peace in the world, there must be peace in the heart and mind. Thank you. Thank you. There must be peace in the family, in the neighborhood, in the village, in the towns and cities. There must be peace in and among nations. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, there is a big prize for enduring peace. A famous protest slogan that proclaims no justice, that disregards continent Africa. It is estimated that some 70% of Africa's population is under the age of 30. Our young men and women are crying out for social and economic justice. They demand equality of opportunity and an end to organized corruption. The youth insist on good governance based on accountability and transparency. If we deny our youth justice, all my faith and equal opportunity, to specially express that we should avoid the paths of extremism and division powered by politics of exclusion. Our accord hangs in the balance of inclusive politics. The evangelists of hate and division are wreaking havoc in our society using social media. They are preaching the gospel of revenge and retribution on the airwaves. Together, we must neutralize the toxin of hatred by creating a civic culture of consensus-based democracy, inclusivity, civility, and tolerance based on Madamar principles. The art of building peace is a synergistic process to change hearts and minds, beliefs and attitudes that never cease. It is like the work of struggling control pests. They walk the fields from dawn to dusk in good and bad weather. The seasons change, but their work never ends. In the end, they harvest the abundance of their fields. Before we can harvest peace dividends, we must plant seeds of love, forgiveness, and reconciliation in the hearts and minds of our citizens. We must pull out the weeds of discord, hate, and misunderstanding, and toil every day during good and bad days too. I am inspired by a biblical scripture which reads, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God." Equally, I am also inspired by Holy Quran verses which reads, "Humanity is but a single brotherhood, so make peace with your brethren." Thank you very much. Thank you. I am committed. I am my sister's keeper too. I have promises to keep before I sleep. I have miles to go on the road of peace. As I conclude, I call upon the international community to join me and my fellow Ethiopians in our Muddamar-inspired efforts of building peace shall be upon all of us. Thank you very much.
A standing ovation for Ethiopia's Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, this year's Nobel Peace Prize laureate, after he delivered his personal message of peace. He earlier received the Nobel Diploma and the Nobel Peace Prize medal from the Norwegian Nobel Committee's chairman, Mrs. Berit Reiss-Andersen. The ceremony in Oslo being held at Oslo City Hall, attended by the Norwegian royal family, a lot of dignitaries as well, a big Ethiopian community present also at Oslo City Hall, Eritreans also accepting it on behalf of Isaias Afewerki, the Eritrean leader, and on behalf of Africa, he said. At home, this is what he's being celebrated for today. He talked about his determination to achieve peace and stability in Africa, and his determination also to promote further economic development on the continent. Let's speak once again to William Davison, who's a senior analyst. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed's message of peace there, what did you make of it? How will it be received back home?
Well, I think it will be received well back home by his supporters, whilst those of his opponents will probably cast it as more of the same type of messaging that he's delivered since he's been in office. But I mean, generally and objectively, it's obviously a very inspiring and encouraging message. Enemies that they are applied to the very hard,
for reaching a peace agreement with Eritrea, Ethiopia's neighbor. The rapprochement between Ethiopia and Eritrea achieved.
Unfortunately, to some, on border with Eritrea and the government in Asmara. And that really speaks to the fact that while there has been a warming of relations between the two governments and between the two leaders, there are still some serious political hostilities between the Eritrean government and aspects of the Ethiopian political scene, a key region in Ethiopia's federation. And until those issues are resolved, then it might be difficult to move towards a full normalization of relations.
And has life changed for Eritreans since this peace deal? I mean, Eritrea's borders are still closed. The border between the two countries has not been demarcated. And I understand that the exodus of Eritreans fleeing their country still continues. So what has changed for Eritrea?
And there we might be looking at some of the reasons why this wasn't given. President Isaias and his regime as highly authoritarian. They see the peace prize as having emboldened Isaias, when they would have preferred to see the international community and the Ethiopian leader take a united stand against Isaias. That hasn't happened, but what does need to happen now is that and that might speak of.
Thank you very much. Award ceremony continues in speech about peace. Ethiopia's first prime minister, hailing from the Oromo group, Ethiopia's largest ethnic group. And we are watching these live pictures, ceremony ending in Oslo. We'll have much more here on Al Jazeera in just a few minutes after this very short break. Do stay with us.